cybersecurity and also around safe procurement online. We are delighted that you all could take the time out today, and we do understand the pressures that you're under within your industry, and any help that we guys can give you, please just keep in touch with us, and follow up at anything you want to follow up with. During the call, there will be a Q&A section, so you can post your questions. Only the panelists can see the questions, and we can, if you've got ones direct for any of the panelists, please make that be known as well in the Q&A section of the questions. For follow-up, we will be recording this session, and we can also then send it out to you at the end. So please pass it on to any colleagues who may not have been able to make this, and make sure it gets as much coverage as possible in these times that are bad for everybody, but particularly for yourselves when you're trying to do everything in the homes itself. We have some amazing speakers today. So we have, first up, we've got Kirsty Steele from Scottish Government, who is going to take you through all the different advice and where you can get advice around cybersecurity. Then we have Jessica and Declan, both of our ethical hackers, who are based at Abertay University and have handed in all of their coursework, so are celebrating as much celebrating as you can do in lockdown. And they're going to take you through some practical advice around cybersecurity. And then we have Jane Donaldson from Scottish Police, who is going to take you through some practical advice around safe procurement. So over to Kirsty.
Thanks, Jude. Just going to set my presentation up here. Perfect. Hi everybody, my name's Kirsty. I work in the Cyber Resilience Unit in the Scottish Government, and we're basically the team that helps Scotland's people and organisations improve their cyber resilience. So that basically means that we help them use technology securely and show them how to respond to and prevent cybercrime. And I just want to echo what Jude was saying there. Thank you very much for listening and taking part in this webinar, and for taking the time out of your vital work to be with us this afternoon. So to give you a little bit of background, we launched a strategy in 2015 called Safe, Secure and Prosperous. And that aims to make Scotland a secure place to live and learn, and also to set up and invest in business. Now, the cyber strategy sits within the Scottish Government's wider digital and economic strategies, but it's also closely aligned to the UK Government's national cyber strategy. And we have a framework in place for improving Scotland's cyber resilience that are through 5 action plans, and that goes across all sectors. But cyber resilience and security are often seen as the domain of the IT department or the techie people. But the truth is that it needs to be on everyone's agenda. And just as people all across Scotland and all parts of organisations must be conscious of their safety and security in the physical world, they must also look after themselves in the digital world. And for that reason, cyber risk has to be seen and considered and managed just like any other business risk would be. And it's not left exclusively to the IT department, which I know in some cases that you might be in, there isn't even an IT manager within your building. Now, the Scottish Government and the National Cyber Security Centre have created a number of tools and resources to address some of those cyber challenges faced by organisations. And I'm going to run through some of the guidance produced by the National Cyber Security Centre, and that will help support you, your residents, the families and the organisation itself. So I'm going to start with video conferencing, and many of us are now using video calls to stay in touch with family, friends, and sometimes even work colleagues. So the need for vital, effective channels of communication is vital. And there are many options for choosing different video conferencing platforms. There's many out there that is available to you, but you want to ensure that the video conferencing calls themselves and any other data that you're sharing, like messages, photos, files, they are all protected, whether that is in the resident's own device or your own staff members' one. Now, the National Cyber Security Centre, they are the UK's authority on all things cyber security. They are part of GCHQ, and they have a range of guidance that is available to help support you and the business. And you should follow their guidance on the video conferencing software and platforms. This guidance shows you how to set up video calls and use it securely, whether it's Zoom, Skype, or any other type of one that you may be using. It covers a range of topics on how to download the software tools, how to make sure that the accounts are protected with strong passwords, which consists of 3 random words, and how to control who can join your call as well. And there are tips for helping your staff use this service securely, those that are maybe attending some meetings and those that are maybe running and hosting sessions themselves. And I'm sure that Jess and Declan will go through some of the tips later on in a bit more detail. Now, they have separate guidance for businesses that use video conferencing software as well, so it might be worth looking on their website for that advice too. And with each of their guidance, they produce a really handy infographic that basically sums it all up in a nice, easy, digestible format. And these are all free, and they can be printed off as a handy guide or a reminder. So you may want to stick them on your notice board. But one of the important things here to mention is to make sure that all your devices and applications, not just the video conferencing ones, but everything are kept up to date. Applying software updates is one of the most important things that you can do to protect yourself online. Update the apps and your device's operating system whenever you're prompted. So just take that 5 minutes to install that update. You can set it to do automatic updates in your settings, but this won't only just give you brand new features that are available within that update, but it will immediately improve the security. Now, there's no surprise that cyber criminals are preying on the fears of the coronavirus, and they're sending phishing emails, and they basically try and trick you into clicking on a bad link. And once the user's clicked, it will send you to a dodgy website, which could download malware onto your device or your computer and potentially steal passwords. The scams claim sometimes that they have a cure for the virus, or there's a financial reward, or they may be encouraging you to donate to a local charity. Like many phishing scams, they're trying to trick you into doing the wrong thing. Now, the NCSE has guidance on how to deal with suspicious messages, and they also have guidance on what to do if you have clicked accidentally. One of the great new tools that they've came out with is, if you're not sure about this suspicious email that you have, you can now actually forward it to the National Cybersecurity Centre, and they will review the content of that link and any of the contents within that email, and they'll check the validity of it to see if it's a scam or not. And if it doesn't approve that it proves to be legitimate, they will immediately remove that website. So you're really helping not just yourself, but you're helping others out there stay protected. So you would forward any phishing, dodgy looking emails to report@phishing.gov.uk. And since the launch of this tool, there has been, this was 4 weeks ago that they launched this brand new service. They've had 454,828 emails sent to their inbox. And with that, they've managed to take down 3,444 suspicious URL links. So I'm sure that will only grow as the time goes on as well. But I'm going to show you a quick demonstration of how you can use this tool. So this is a video that I've got here of a fake email that I got sent from what looks to be from Netflix. I can tell that this one wasn't a legitimate email, as it's got things that are highlighting to me that it's from hi customer, don't click, this prompted me to click on this link to update my payment details, and the URLs look a little bit suspicious. So I decided that I would forward this to the new reporting tool, so it's easy to do. So you take the email, you hit the forward button, you type report@phishing.gov.uk, and you hit send. and that's it. And then you'll automatically get an email sent back from the National Cyber Security Centre to say that they have received your email and that they'll look into it, and they'll give you a range of good further advice and guidance links to then go for further learning. Now, if you become a victim of a coronavirus related fraud or any other type of cybercrime, then you must report this to Police Scotland on 101. The Scottish Government Cyber Resilience Unit, we're sharing important cybersecurity information from trusted resources such as the National Cyber Security Centre, Police Scotland and Trading Standards Scotland. We're wanting to amplify their authoritative advice and guidance as they are seen as the authoritative source on cybercrime and scams. So we are sharing a bulletin each week to help to increase the awareness of the nature of the cyber scam and frauds that are out there, and it's pointing you to further advice and guidance to help protect yourself against this. So you can read these bulletins online using the link below. I'll add the direct link in the chat just after this presentation, but feel free if you want to take a screenshot of that URL link itself, or the webinar will be online later as well, that you'll be able to write it down again if you missed it. But I would encourage you to bookmark this page, and then you'll be up to date on all the latest scams that are flying out there on the internet. So advice and information is changing daily as we navigate through COVID pandemic. So please ensure that you take information from trusted resources. You want to look to authoritative sources such as Police Scotland and the National Cyber Security Centre. And the National Cyber Security Centre have great further reading on top tips for staying secure online. There's 6 easy steps that you can do that will help protect you to be a bit safer online. And I would encourage you again to report any suspicious activity to Police Scotland on 101 if you become a victim. But be vigilant out there and be suspicious of any too good to be true deals. But thank you for listening, and we'll look forward to hearing some of your questions later.
Thanks, Kirsty. And now we've got Declan and Jessica.
Thank you, Jude. I'll just share my screen here and we'll get started. So firstly, just want to echo the comments that have already been made, just to thank everyone that's joined us today, and thank you for all the vital work you are doing and managing to make some time today to come and see what we have to say. So we were asked to come along and speak to you about all of the stuff that we have been seeing and our advice we have to you all. And this is the kind of thing that we have been seeing, unfortunately, over the past 10 weeks or so. And that is, as Kirsty mentioned, hackers and scammers have jumped at the opportunity to try and scam us in new ways, whether that be through some phishing emails that we've seen that are impersonating government websites with all of the new funds being made available to businesses. They're trying to get us to fall for links and click on them. Again, we've seen new text coming out. I remember kind of at the start of lockdown, the government sent out a text to everyone, just making them aware of the resources on the NHS website. And within hours of that text going out, we've seen fake text spreading around. We've also seen texts about people breaking lockdown and curfew. And then now, with the NHS contact tracing app being trialled in the Isle of Wight, we're now seeing text messages going around, letting people know that they've come into contact with fake, or letting people know they've come into contact with people that have had the virus. These texts are fake. They're trying to get you to click on a link where something bad can happen. And again, we've also seen just about every supermarket has had some sort of scam set up in their name, asking people to click on links to get a hold of some fake vouchers. when in actual fact these are scams. So this is what we've been seeing going around. Very unfortunate. And particularly care homes can be vulnerable with targeted fake protection equipment, PPE, scams, various things like that. So we have to watch out for those.
So what exactly have we been kind of seeing in cybersecurity in terms of the care sector? This by no means is everything. You guys will know the struggles that you're coming across day to day, but just a few things that we're going to touch on today. So staff using personal devices, obviously we're in very difficult times at the moment, and it's beyond important that residents are able to keep in touch with their loved ones, and sometimes that does mean that staff are going to have to use their personal devices to facilitate that conversation. We want to help you do that safely and securely. Insecure Wi-Fi networks, so we've seen a few homes within the care sector complaining about lack of passwords and overall security within their internal network. Residents feeling quite overwhelmed by technology and maybe starting to feel a bit distant because they can't contact their loved ones. Password management, when dealing with residents that are elderly that maybe have underlying conditions, managing passwords might not be of, it just won't be of their greatest concern. So we just want to give you some hints and tips as to how you can do that safely, securely, and easily, to be honest. And sanitizing devices, both digitally and physically as well.
So we thought a lot about what is best to recommend to care homes, particularly when it comes to cybersecurity, because we appreciate the difficulty with some of the regular advice we'd offer. So this is to start off with kind of the regular advice that we would offer to all, and most of this can be applied to care homes. So we always advise in terms of passwords or passphrases to use appropriately secure passwords or passphrases. We're trying to move away actually from the term password and move towards passphrase, just to emphasize that it's no longer the case that one word can be acceptable. They're quite easy to guess. So we're now trying to push for a couple of words, 3 or 4, maybe some lyrics from a song, and you can throw in some numbers and some special characters in there to increase the security of your passphrase. Also, we strongly advocate that you keep your devices up to date. Updates often come with crucial security features that can enhance the security of your device. And updates are pretty much always free and easy to do. You just need to download them and set aside some time for them to install on your device. We're also, as highlighted earlier, just encouraging everyone to watch out for scams. Kirsty spoke to us earlier about the NCSC reporting tool. If you do come across a scam, we strongly encourage you to report it and just be aware when you are receiving emails, if they do seem like they have a sense of urgency, if they are asking you to click somewhere or download something, these are probably not legitimate emails. And if in doubt, it's probably best just to chuck the email in the bin if you don't trust it. And finally, always make sure your devices are backed up. This ensures that if in the unfortunate event you do fall victim to a cyber incident, you will have data available to recover from. When it comes to backups, we like to recommend the 3-2-1 rule. So that is 3 copies of the data on 2 different storage mediums in 1 separate location. So for example, you copy the data 3 times, you keep 1 copy on a USB stick, and you put 1 copy in the cloud. That's your 2 different storage mediums, and then the cloud is in a separate location.
So just kind of furthering on from what Kirsty was echoing, we know that there's been quite a lot of concern in the care sector in exactly how to facilitate these conversations with residents. So these are just a few platforms that we recommend that we found very easy to use, that are easy to set up, and that are secure as well. So WhatsApp is encrypted by default. It's cross-platform, so you can have it on your iPhone, you can have it on an Android device. It supports both audio and video calls, and that includes group chats as well, and there's minimal setup required. It's very easy to configure. So for residents, they might have their own personal devices that they want to be using. WhatsApp could be a very viable solution for easily keeping in touch. And another platform that we recommend looking into is actually Facebook Messenger. Again, it's cross-platform. Facebook Messenger is not encrypted by default, but this can be very easily enabled. And last but not least, it's popular. Obviously, you've got residents and their families. They want to be using something that they trust and that they know. And I think that a lot of the concerns that have been growing surrounding platforms and what to use is because so many platforms are now becoming available. So using something that's known and widely recognised, such as Facebook Messenger, isn't necessarily a bad thing.
So in terms of specific advice for what staff can do to try and improve cybersecurity within care homes, these are the kind of top information or pieces of information that we decided to convey. And that, first of all, when getting residents, when given residents the opportunity to perhaps use personal devices or staff personal devices, that we've heard that is happening quite a bit. The first piece of advice we would give is to limit their choice of what to use to communicate with family and friends. So as Jess just said, we're recommending here the two applications to choose from, WhatsApp and Facebook Messenger, just because of the reasons that Jess highlighted earlier. Also, when you are given the device to a resident, consider the background applications that you have running. So this is a screenshot of my iPhone, and you can see I've got WhatsApp open, but there are also apps in the background. It's probably best to close them just in case, in the off chance that a resident does maybe push a wrong button on the phone and open another application that then could be your personal stuff that they could potentially be looking at, or they could make a mistake and maybe do something that would cause an accident. So if we close the applications in the background, it reduces the risk of that happening. Also, when it comes to allowing residents to speak over Facebook Messenger or WhatsApp, what we would recommend is that you use the official channels of the care home first to verify the correct numbers. So get the family member or friend to phone up the care home or email the care home, get in contact with them, and then pass on the details of either the mobile phone or Messenger or WhatsApp account that they want to use, just so that you can verify that that is the authentic family member or friend, and then they can contact them through your personal device if you're choosing to do it that way. And then also to be aware that if you are using your own device to give to residents, is be aware of both your personal accounts on that device and their personal accounts. Make sure that you log out of your WhatsApp either before, or if you're allowing them to use it, make sure that they're logged out of theirs after. Make sure there's no data left over, perhaps messages or chat history. Just delete that if it's not needed, just to ensure maximum security and privacy as well.
So in terms of supporting residents, we're going to provide just a few tips, but I think it's important to echo here that there is no one-size-fits-all solution that we can provide. We're just aiming to give some general tips. And as Jude said, there will be the option to post Q&As either now or at the end of the webinar if there is a specific scenario that you would like a bit of advice on. So in terms of platforms, just like Declan said, if a resident has their own device and are fortunate enough to do so, limit the platforms where applicable. If you feel like a resident could become overwhelmed or could potentially be targeted by some of the scams that we were talking about, try your best to encourage them to stick to the platforms that we've discussed. Ask questions. We're here to help. There is an abundance of resources online to answer any questions or concerns you may have. And last but not least, encourage discussion. I think that it's really important that in this currently like unprecedented situation that we're in, to make sure that you're still talking, especially with residents, to try and ensure that if they see something online or they've seen something on their device that they're concerned about, to echo that concern to potentially one of the care workers who could feed it back to ourselves or can seek out further advice. So passwords, passwords is something we've discussed a lot, and again, there is no one size fits all, but as a general rule of thumb, we encourage 3 random words, encourage residents to just look around the room, pick 3 random objects, and that can be their passphrase. Encourage the sharing of passwords securely where is applicable. We know that in the instance of residents who might have underlying health conditions or who might struggle to remember hundreds of passwords at one time, having something like a book that they keep maybe in their room or in their bedside cabinet, that they note down their passwords in. We use a phrase quite often when we're doing work with the Scottish Business Resilience Centre, that's we don't have to run faster than the bear, we just have to run faster than you. So I think it's important to echo that we're not expecting full 100% security from everyone, but to note down a password as an elderly resident in a book that's going to be stored securely in your room, that it is not necessarily harmful from our perspective, and something that we could also recommend if a resident might be unable to maintain that level of security themselves by maintaining a password book, is potentially by having a staff managed password book, and even involving families in the secure sharing of passwords if that is deemed appropriate as well. And just something that I think captures what we're trying to say here is that alone we can do so little, and together we can do so much. Involve the residents. We want to help them as much as we can, and we know how much pressure workers in the care sector are under, and we know that you can't be looking over someone's shoulder all the time. So just providing some little handy, helpful hints and tips and allowing them to support themselves, I think will probably go a long way.
So I've just seen in the chat there that we're talking a bit about shared devices, and here, yeah, we're going to touch briefly on some tips on shared or communal care home devices. So first of all, the kind of standard rules that you would expect. So make sure that they are kept clean, just sanitized after use, and charged where possible. It can be difficult if they're maybe being passed around room to room for scheduled calls with various care home residents. But just try and keep them charged where as possible, because if they do run out, that could pose a problem. But in terms of more of a cyber perspective as well, we would encourage these devices to be checked occasionally, just to make sure that through the browsers and various apps that they have installed, that they're logged out of any personal accounts, unless they've perhaps got a care home communal account. And there was a mention in the chat as well about GDPR and data regarding that. We would encourage these devices to occasionally be digitally sanitized. So what do we mean by that? Well, we just encourage you to, again, log out of the accounts that are on the device. If there are any chat applications, make sure those chats are deleted or saved to a personal account if it's logged in. for a resident, just so that not everyone has access to them, and so the privacy can be kept there. And again, when it comes to personal pictures, make sure none are saved to the actual internal storage of the device. If a resident have a Facebook account, they can be saved to that personal Facebook account, but not the device itself. And again, just make sure you check like the browsers to make sure that there's no passwords being saved on the browser accounts, and just in general check the device to make sure it's okay, it's up to date, and then following the security advice that we mentioned earlier.
So Wi-Fi networks. We have seen quite a lot of concern echoing surrounding the kind of internal network security within care facilities. And the kind of best advice we can give is try and enable passwords on all Wi-Fi networks that are in use. But it's important to note here that every network is different, so we can't provide you with simple step-by-step because every router, every provider is different. But if you're ever in doubt or you aren't sure of how to enable a password on a network, contact your Wi-Fi provider, contact the management within the home themselves, just whoever is in charge of providing that service. Get in touch with them, echo your concerns, and address it, basically.
So that is effectively it from us in terms of our advice for care homes. What we would encourage, just before I pass back to Jude, is if you do have any questions at all, please make use of the questions feature on Zoom today. Please also don't hesitate to get in touch with us through the SBRC. We're more than happy to answer any questions you may have or expand on some advice. And again, I'll just point you towards some of the resources that Kirsty mentioned earlier at the NCSC, and we ourselves at the SBRC also have resources available for various chatting apps. But thank you very much, and I'll pass you back to Jude.
Declan, just before we go on to Jane around safe procurement, there's a question there about trying to set up person-centered, let's have to go now because person-centered software, relatives gateway, which allows each relative to have their own log and in secure data transfer between their relative through messages, pics and video call and Jitsi. No data is stored in device, but in the cloud. Issues with WhatsApp Messenger in that most residents and relatives are now in their 50s and 60s, not familiar with how to use WhatsApp. Any advice on that?
So Jess and I had some conversations, and we kind of reached the conclusion that we have been recommending Facebook Messenger and WhatsApp just because they are, in our eyes, the easiest to use. There's not really a lot of complicated features or clicking on links or anything along those lines. But if you have found a solution that works at your own care home, then we're more than happy to speak to you to see what we think about it. But if it works, then it's probably safe to say that if it's working for you guys, it's probably fine. It's the real key message here is just trying to get residents safely to talk to their friends and family.
Yeah, so it says that they'll need a separate account for each resident. Yeah, they would, because they would need that. Niall, if you want to contact us offline, I'll send you our details and you can follow up. And even if it was doing some sort of information session for residents, taking them through it, and for their families and stuff like that as well, we're more than happy to do that online if you want to do that in the future. Okay, I'm going to pass you over to Jane now.
Hi, thanks, Jude. Today I'm going to speak to you a bit about fraud and how this has been impacted by COVID and the lockdown measures, and just some simple steps you can take either to protect yourself as an individual or your business. This is not new. Criminals will use every opportunity they can to defraud people and businesses, and they'll continue to exploit every angle of this crisis, and we just really want you to be prepared. I'm genuinely not trying to scare people at a time which I know is already an anxious time for everybody. We just really want you to be aware of some very simple steps you can take to protect yourself from handing over your money or your personal details. Throughout this crisis, but also before, police, government, industry, we work together to protect folk and to raise awareness. As Kirsty alluded to already about the takedown of fraudulent websites and email addresses, but we also, as I say, want to look at preventing this and through some simple advice. So what's happening with fraud at the moment then? COVID-related frauds are a tiny fraction of the amount of fraud that gets reported to police. It's running at somewhere between sort of 3–4%. But we are seeing a number of different scams circulating relating to the pandemic. That'll be in the increase in the number of people working remotely. We're all working differently. We're often under more pressure, and this presents an opportunity to criminals. And there's also so much information for us all to absorb, it can sometimes feel a bit overwhelming. I think Kirsty's and the guys have already mentioned already, but what we have seen during COVID is criminals using a COVID-related hook, so a story to commit the fraud. We're seeing them sort of present in sort of three general ways: undermining the health outcomes, so that's PPE, cures, tests, hand sanitizers, fraud against the government's support measures, so the fraudsters pretending to be HMRC or the government and trying to get your details that you're trying to report for the furlough scheme or to access grants. And then I think somebody's already mentioned as well, fraud is directly targeted at us as individuals, so looking for us to donate money to fake charities, to say that you've been fined by the police by being out under curfew, etc., etc. Online shopping and procurement continues to be a risk, as our usual face-to-face buying with goods, whether that's for your personal use or for your business, is no longer possible. But however, whilst the hooks being used by the criminals to commit fraud may relate to COVID, and they use words like PPE and face masks and furlough, all these words that we didn't use back in February, the methods that they are using are no different. As both folk have said already, most of them are cyber enabled, so that's through emails or text messages or through social media. And again, it's all pushing you to click on that link, either elicit the money from you there or to harvest your personal details for later. These criminals are experts at impersonating people, organisations, even the police, and they spend hours researching you, hoping that you'll let your guard down for one moment. The reason for saying that is never be embarrassed to have fallen victim to this. Please do report it. They are good at what they do. And as I said, they can contact you by phone, email, text, social media, or in person. And the ability to detect a fictitious company or a business transaction in this period of high demand is more challenging. So for businesses, what we're asking you to do is, many businesses now are establishing new supply chains for products, particularly PPE, and buying from companies that you've maybe never dealt with before. And again, this provides the fraudster with an opportunity to exploit that situation. High demand for goods and urgency that you need them for, and those conducting these type of frauds will often, they know this and they will target you for that. At this time, the care sector and other businesses, again, needing to procure PPE, you are particularly vulnerable at this time. In amongst all the strains of what you're trying to do and trying to get your residents connected to their family and things, all we do is ask you to try to maintain as much rigour as possible with your internal systems and processes that you would do in normal day business. We're seeing instances of what's called bank mandate fraud around the COVID-19 response, and that's where there's a fraudulent request to change, whether it be a direct debit, a standing order, or a bank transfer mandate in order to divert the funds that you think you're sending to a customer or a supplier to the fraudulent account. As I say, this can affect you as a customer or supplier, and don't underestimate the sophistication of this fraud. It's not just a one-off email trying to ask you to change your bank account details. There will be many steps there trying to build up your trust and for them to pretend, as I say, to be a customer or a supplier. However, being alert to this and ensuring that your organisation follows some simple steps, you really can significantly reduce your chances of falling victim to this. As far as procurement itself is concerned, what we would suggest is Ensure all your staff who are involved in financial transactions or involved in buying or liaising with suppliers is that they're aware of procurement fraud, they're aware of the risk and how to identify it, and they know who to come to if they have any suspicions. Never be pressurised into acting in a way that is time sensitive. A genuine organisation will have no issue with you saying, no, I need to verify this. However, the fraudster will. It's very often their first port of call is that you must do this by a certain date or something will happen. A common one is that your account's been hacked and we quickly need to move funds from A to B. If that's genuine, your bank or whoever they're purported to be will be absolutely fine with you double checking that through another route that I'll mention in a second. Ensure there's a three-way match that you're carrying out. So the amounts on your requisition, your purchase order, and your invoice, do they match up? Are the details all the same? Of the fraudsters slipped up somewhere? You can do those checks. And likewise, have a dual control process. I'm sure this is what you all do anyway in normal times, but for those people who are authorising payments, make sure there's a check and balance. So if you're the senior manager, make sure that you are checking your staff who are authorising payments. Likewise, if you are somebody who does that day-to-day business, make sure there's somebody there that checks. We can all do with somebody checking our work and making sure two sets of eyes are better than one. That will certainly help you spot any irregular patterns. Be careful about the sender's email address. Try to identify if it exactly matches your known and trusted records. I think Kirsty mentioned already is that when they send an email, it will look to, so the Netflix one, they're trying to look like Netflix, they're trying to look like the Bank of Scotland, they're trying to look like whoever it is they're purported to be. And often you'll have dealt with these people many times and the email address will look very similar. But obviously then that redirects you to the fraudster and then every communication thereafter is not with who you think it is. Be vigilant to any clerical or spelling errors within the email you may get. Some of the frauds that we see originate overseas and English may not be a first language. So again, spelling, grammatical errors, or even turns of phrase that just don't seem right. I think we've all been subject to those emails and think that's just not how somebody would put that. Particularly if it's a new supplier, carry out internet searches on that. Look at customer reviews, look to see if the telephone and the email numbers that the addresses you've been given. But if there's a landline, if there's another number that you've not got, call that one and check. As I say, any legitimate company will absolutely understand and call them from the number that you've found rather than the number that's been provided. As I said before about bank mandate, please be alert to any request ever to alter your bank details. If you're provided with this request, come out of the email, it's unlikely to be a text message, come out of the phone call, come out of the email and go back to the original source. So if it's your bank, if it's your supplier, if it's a customer, go back to the way that you would normally contact them and check and verify it that way. Don't follow the trail that the fraudsters laid for you. As I say, if it's a new customer, then go back and do some open source internet checks. Likewise, for any bank account or sort of quote details that you're given, if you put them, if you Google them, if you search them, it will tell you where that sort code, where that bank is. Now, there may be a reason why you think you're dealing with a company in the north of Scotland and they're banking in the south of England, but I would certainly want to verify why that's the case. As individuals, I think we can all do with a reminder about how to keep ourselves safe from fraud. And really, there's just really some simple things. Please remember that the bank, the police, other organisations, we will never contact you by email or by text message to ask you to transfer money. We will never ask you to give their PIN number or your banking details. And if you do get that, please confirm the requests are genuine by going back to a source that you know is genuine, so a bank statement or a phone bill or the online contact details that you can get online, and contact the agency that way. Don't stick with the email or the text message. And I think, as Kirsty says, don't click on the links or the attachments. And if you do get one of these that you think is suspicious, then absolutely that report at phishing.gov.uk. When buying goods online or services online, try and do your research and use recognised online retailers with a good reputation. This can be really challenging just now. As I say, most of us are getting the goods that we want online. If something appears to be too good to be true, then it probably is. You know, at the beginning of this, when none of us could get any loo roll, if you can't get it from Tesco's and Sainsbury's and all these places, how then can you get it online with next day delivery? You know, look at that and see why that's the case, and try to stick to reputable suppliers as much as you possibly can. When you are paying, try to pay by PayPal or similar mechanisms, or use a credit card if possible rather than bank transfer, because this will give you more protection should you become a victim of fraud. What we would say in general, whether you're an individual or a business, is just stop, take a moment and think before parting with your money or your personal information. If you get the spidey senses that you think it's fake, it's okay to reject it, to refuse it, to ignore it. Only criminals will try to rush and panic you. Legitimate organisations will fully understand. And like as been said all the way through, if you think you have been a victim, please contact your bank immediately and report to Police Scotland on 101 or 999 if you think it's an emergency. As well as the NCSC website, there's also Take5.fraud, which is a really good, simple website to give us advice on fraud and fraud prevention. So that's me for today, guys. If there's any questions now, or happy to get in touch with any organisation later, we can certainly be of any assistance to you.
Thank you very much, Jane. If anyone's got any questions, if you can send them in now, but I think we've answered most of them. A comment came in from Eamon Keane, who can't be on the webinar today, and he said that there is a standard operating procedure for cybersecurity for the care homes issued by your local NHS office. So I've asked him if he can get a link, and we'll send that out as well, rather than you having to search around the web for that as well. As I said earlier on, this is recorded, so you will get a copy of the recording and any other information that we think is useful, and we'll send that out to you probably tomorrow. Please send that on to any colleagues, and also just keep in contact with us. Anything else you think would be useful around these subjects, let us know, and we have no problem in putting on another webinar and at times that suit you. We chose 3 o'clock because we thought it might have been some downtime for you guys during the day, but happy to do this in the future and any other topics and subjects. And I'd just like to say thank you very much for all of the panelists, particularly to Kirsty, Jane, Declan and Jess. And Declan and Jess and Kirsty, the reason why I came about is because last week they were like, what can we do to help the care homes around cybersecurity and safe procurement? So well done for the younger generation for taking the lead on this and spending so much time preparing it. So thank you very much, guys. I'm just going to end the session now. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.